Archd.
107.9.
Life FM.
Now, we're here today with a lot of special guests that have come in. Jess Branch was in here earlier. Wonderful to hear about Fred's Van and all the work that they're doing.
Absolutely.
We are now here with Theodora Sullivan. Now, Theodora Sullivan is someone who has done a lot of work with St Vincent de Paul as well, and she's going to be at this June 17 event as well.
That's correct.
And someone who's also had an amazing life story as well. Theodora, thank you so much for coming in today.
No, thank you.
Much appreciated. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what's brought you to be here at this particular moment in time today, getting involved with St Vincent de Paul?
Well, for me, I've been involved with Vinnie's as such since 2010.
Okay.
With the CEO Sleep Out, going and talking to big CEOs and explaining my story and situations that can involve to people being homeless. You know, through a large scale of homeless people, you'll find there's a lot of trauma attached to their history, and that's why they decide the last place for them to go is the streets.
Yeah.
Whether, you know, it's family or domestic violence or any sort of abuse, you'll find that's their core issues on leaving home and building a life for themselves on the street.
Now, I think there's maybe incorrect perceptions about the kind of people who do end up being homeless. I think a lot of people think that people have to come from a specific background or people have to come from a specific economic situation, but that's not true, is it?
No, not at all. Look, I'm Greek Orthodox, okay, and I had an extremely wonderful childhood. You know, I did my ballet and my netball and I did all my dancing but behind closed doors, there was a lot of trauma attached to that people didn't see.
Yeah.
And my bubbliness and, you know, eccentric sort of out there personality actually covered all of that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to actually let the trauma come through in who I was as such.
So from what kind of age did you find yourself out of home and in that homeless situation?
You know, we moved here when I was 15 years old after being suspended from school and the abuse actually coming out and not being dealt with. And I ended up homeless at the age of 15.
Wow.
Living on Highley Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And obviously this is not the case still. What was for you the road back?
Look, it's taken a lot of years. You know, I adapted to being a street kid. It's taken a lot of years. I'm 31 now, and I think the difference is that I've allowed people into my life now. I've come to that age where the turning point for me is, I suppose, focusing on my family. You know, I'm married now and have been for 4 years, and I have an absolutely amazing life. I could not have ever pictured my life, you know, sitting on the streets on a red crate by myself and imagining that I'd be where I am today. Vinnie's is an awesome organisation. I mean, I was very held back when, you know, there's CEOs sleeping on the street on a cardboard box and I'm thinking, excuse me. Because it was not like that for us, and it never was. You know, we had squats and we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
You know, living on Highley Street, we had concrete floors, and some women, prostitution. You know, it would go to absolute extreme lengths.
You're now doing a lot of stuff with St Vinny's. You're involved in them. You obviously see them as an organisation that is actually doing a lot of good.
Yes.
When was your first contact with them?
My first contact was with the CEO Sleep Out in 2010, I believe. And I saw it on TV in an advert, and I was not left happy because of that. Sleeping bags and having beanies and having a hot meal as such. So I wrote into them, and then quite an angry letter, as I can get quite feisty in Greek. But yeah, and I wrote into them and I just said, how can you people honestly think that spending one night on the street, you would know and feel how it felt like for me and for so many others that do it? And yeah, back then it was Wayne Broadbridge, and he actually invited me to come and talk to the CEOs, and I was a mess on that night because it was so overwhelming having so many people just stare at you, and you got this big bright light in your face, you know, while the camera's rolling. And no, you know, but then after that I got really used to it, being able to talk to people again, and being extremely open with people. You know, I don't hide who I used to be or what I used to do, and I think that's also been really beneficial for my healing.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to hear more about Theodora's story, she's going to be at this special event that the Catholic Education Office is running in joint with St Vincent de Paul on Monday, June the 17th. It's going to be happening from 7 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. That's at George Street in Theberton. Stay tuned. We are going to get more details to you as the show goes on over the next hour or so. In the meantime, this is Bastille. You're listening to ArchD on Life.